I know we've only known each other for 4 weeks and 3 days, but to me, it seems like 9 weeks and 5 days.
All right, all my garden enthusiasts and passionate plant people. Welcome to Let's Get Growing show here on the Urban Gardener channel. I'm Enoch. I'm your host today. And today we've got a great show for you. It is the third week of the month, and the third week of the month means that it is time for our monthly gardening book club with our good friend, Mr. MBC, joining us here in a few minutes for the In the Garden segment. Today, we have joining us here in just a little bit later on in the show, Kelpie Wilson. She's the author of the Biochar Handbook. So that's our featured selection for this month, the Biochar Handbook. Really great book. Can't wait to get into that conversation with Kelpie coming up here in just a little bit later in the show. And definitely for all of you here who are joining with us right now, let's definitely click that like button, hit the thumbs up, as well as subscribe, and also click that bell notification so you can be notified of all of our upcoming live streams and videos here on the Urban Gardener channel. Definitely share with all of your friends and let them know about our weekend show here, talking all about gardening and all other things every Saturday and Sunday here. Again, on the Urban Gardener channel at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern, and that's 7 p.m. for all of you there over in the UK. And again, thanks for everybody joining with us here today. And also a big, huge shout out to those of you who are watching us on the replay. Thank you for being here. Definitely jump into that comments section below and let me know you were here. Let me know what you got growing on this year. I want to hear all about how your gardens did this year. So definitely get into the comment section. Let me know about your garden experience this year, and just drop by and say hi if you want to as well. And if you are here today joining with us live and you have any questions or comments, I want to see those questions too for our guests coming up here a little bit later on the show too. So drop into our chat there and let everybody know you're here. And if you do have any questions, put those in big, bold, capital letters so that we can see those questions from the conversation, and I can make sure that we get those asked of our guest here just a little bit later on in the show. And definitely go and click those links down below to check out our guests and all of our other social media. So again, thank you all for being here. Really great to see you all here. Let's jump in real quick and say hi to a few folks. And first off, we definitely got to say hi to our good friend and show facilitator, Jay Dixon, joining us from Huron County, Midwestern Ontario, Canada. Thank you, Jay, for being here. Thank you for doing all of your facilitating of the show for everybody else. Keep an eye out for links and such from Jay there in the chat. And if you do have any channels or anything and you'd like a shout out, let us know you got a channel. And Jay would be glad to drop a link as well to your channel so we can all go and support you as well too. Let's see here. We've got Paul from Guten Gardening joining in with us. Great to see you, Paul. And let's see here. Let's work through here and say hi to folks. I see we also have Bowtie in the garden with us as well too. Good to see you, David. Great to have you here with us. And also I see Brett in the conversation. Awesome, Brett. Thank you for being here. And let's see here. Who else we got? Oh, Coach Chavi too. Awesome. Great to have you with us here. And Eddie, great. Somebody, hey, Eddie. Well, there you go. Hey, Eddie. Great to see you here. Thanks for being with us today. Jersey girl, always great to see you in the conversation as well. I see Muddy Puddles Farm. Awesome. Great to have you here. And excellent. Oh, saying that you checked out the replay. Yes, awesome. Thank you for checking us out as well too. Just so great to see everybody here live, but it's also awesome to see folks checking out our replay as well too. And let's see here. Lots of Lots of great conversation going on in our chat. I see Serena in there as well too. Great to see you. All right. Why was the garden haunted? Because of the ghost peppers. Great one. Awesome. Thank you again for being here in the conversation. Great to have you here with us. Let's see, where did I miss? Oh, did I miss somebody here? Yep. Can't miss this guy right here. This is our other good friend and moderator, Adam Burley, our good friend from right up the road from me here in Central Point, Oregon. Thanks, Adam, for being here. Great to have you as well. All right. All right. Let's see. Everybody's already getting the conversation going. Really awesome again to have you all here. We've got a great show for you. We've got a great guest for our book club today. Just a really wonderful and awesome book to review today. And also lots and lots of things growing on and going on in the garden around here as well. Hope everything's been growing great in your gardens too. And again, I know it's kind of that kind of transition time right now too, as we're all kind of transitioning from, harvesting up and cleaning up even and taking down a lot of our summer crops and plants and things as those are all finishing up. I've got plenty of work to do as far as that goes. Few things are still growing just fine. We still haven't quite hit temperatures yet where things are really dying off, as far as our summer crops and things. We're still kind of, overnights, in the low 40s for us here. So I've still got lots of like even tomatoes and things that are still kind of ripening up and going. So it's really, still some things that are hanging on. So I'm trying to hold on to some of those, but we're also trying to, again, too, like I say, clear out some space, get things moving along. And I've been also planting out a lot of some of my favorite greens for our fall garden and fall winter garden that we've got, and spinaches and things like that as well too. I did put out some carrot seeds, so hopefully maybe we can get some carrots going as well too. There was something I didn't grow this last spring. There were a lot of things I didn't get started. Again, we kind of had one of those years where we weren't putting too much effort into a lot of the things that I grow, mostly throughout most of my gardening seasons. It was kind of a no pressure garden this year, so I grew several things that are mainstays for us, but there were a lot of things that we didn't really get to that I'm going to be looking forward to possibly seeing again throughout our fall garden and moving into this next year. I mean, I can't believe we're already starting to wind down this year. I mean, it seems like the years are just passing by faster and faster each and every year, but it's still great to see everything growing in the garden. So like I said, hopefully you've got a lot of great things growing in the garden as well too. And jump into our chat, let us know. And again, like I said, if you're here with the replay, definitely let me know in the comment section below about how everything's been growing in your garden this year. And also too, I just want to mention as well too, before we get moving on here, we had some great shows this last weekend. You want to go and check out some of those shows last Saturday and Sunday if you didn't get a chance to. Last Saturday, we got to meet up with Philip Longo from Earth, Nails, and Tails. Really great conversation with Philip. Really awesome gardener. He's got a great channel that you'll want to go check out, and go and check out our conversation with him, as well as getting to meet a familiar name in our chat, Farmer Marshall. Farmer Marshall is in our chat often, and so it was really great to have him on with us this last Saturday for our Are You Following Me segment. And so you want to go back and check that out, as well as last Sunday, our Sunday edition of the show. And again, last Sunday was the second Sunday of the month, and we missed him last month in September. So it was great to catch up with our good friend, Gardner Scott for his Ask Gardner Scott show on our second Sunday edition. Really great to catch up with Gardner Scott, and so much to learn about gardening and growing from Gardner Scott. And definitely go back and check that out if you didn't get a chance to. Also, we've been talking about, and I want to promote here at the front of the show, I'll mention again too later on in the show as well too. At the end of the month, we've got our 5th annual Halloween Hangout live stream. This is a really fun Halloween evening hangout where we all get to hang out while we're handing out treats to the neighborhood kids, and we're going to watch the original 1960s classic The Little Shop of Horrors. Really great, fun, old classic version of The Little Shop of Horrors. I know a lot of you are familiar with the movie, or even for me, the theatrical version, one of my favorite plays. I've got to see it many, many different times from when I was young to, not, well, it was probably about 10 years ago. I got to see the last one, but really great, fun event for all of us. And also too, we're going to do some add something to the show. Last year we brought on and we invited you all to come and join with us too. So if you came to view the show, we invited you on and gave you the show link, and you got to come on and share with us and hang out with us after the movie. We're going to do the same sort of thing this year as well too, but we're going to add on a fun costume contest, and as well too, we another kind of contest of Halloween decor in your garden. So you can come either and join with us live and submit your costume to the costume contest, or as well too, you can submit photos of your Halloween decor in your garden, or your Halloween costumes, and they could be from this year, last year, and the recent years. If you want to submit for our costume contest, all you got to do though is just submit those to us at the Urban Gardener at mail.com and get those photos in by October 29th. And we'll go through all of those and hang out with all of you for our 5th annual Halloween hangout. So definitely send all of your pictures and submissions to us there at the Urban Gardener at mail.com. So, all right, let's get moving on with this show today. One of the cool things about our book club is that usually on our Sunday edition, we've got our In the Garden segment with our good friends Paul and David and Mr. MBC. But Mr. MBC is our co-host for the book club. So we've got him here with us live. So let's get in the garden. All right, everybody, let's welcome our good friend, Mr. MBC.
Hey, everybody, pleasure to be here. Always a pleasure to be here with you, Enoch, and with the whole community gathered.
Absolutely. Great to have you here with us today. We got another great book club ahead for us here today. Really exciting. Can't wait to talk to Kelpie here in just a little bit about her great book, the Biochar Handbook. But let's dig into some garden right now real quick here. Let's see how things been going on in your different gardens.
Well, I keep waiting for things to end, but you know, there's no end in sight. It's just like there's just always so much to do. You think you, at least I will say this, some of the watering tasks have really started to decline. That's always a big relief, just because we've gotten some substantial rains and started to get enough of them to make a difference. So that's good, and that's always just a trigger for a little bit of relaxation, because when you have all the other garden tasks plus watering, it adds up to a lot. So I'm grateful for that. So that part has slowed down a little bit, but you know, as you were saying, it's just like this combined time of still harvest, and in some things harvesting is just peaking, like especially at our school garden, we grow a lot of corn, which is really fun. So we've been harvesting our popcorn, we've been harvesting our different kinds of flour corn that we're going to grind up. So that's, you know, there's a lot of work there. Then we take out the corn stalks and chop things up and get the land ready for something else. There's garlic to plant, there's cover crops to plant, there's fava beans to plant, there's some, you know, the occasional, like you said, like try to get in a little bit more lettuce, maybe a little bit of radishes or something that's going to grow quickly.
Yes. That's the one I forgot to mention, was the radishes as well too. Those are one of my favorites.
Oh yeah.
Again, because they're so quick and yeah, I just love.
We put in some daikons this year. I've done daikons before, but I put some in, I think September 1st, and those are coming along beautifully. And I think we're going to do some little pickles at school, so that'll be really fun. But what a great vegetable to just have ready for the winter. You know, those things are just going to be standing there for the winter. Actually, speaking of winter, later this afternoon, I'm going out to the school garden for a work party, and we're going to just mulch all our winter brassicas, because we have just a great looking field of Brussels sprouts and then a bunch of purple sprouting broccoli for the spring. So some of this stuff, you put in the work, and at least in the Pacific Northwest, the yield is coming in the winter. It's not even here yet. We don't not getting the harvest, but we're looking forward to it and taking care of those things still.
Yeah, it's true. Again, too, it's just in a way, it's kind of a bittersweet type of time of year as well, too, because again, we're saying goodbye kind of to a lot of things that are going on in our summer garden, and again, like you said, things just still kind of keep going though, too. I mean, we haven't quite hit those temperatures yet where they're really starting to die back really, a lot. And so, so that and I think we kind of talked about this last time we were on too, as well, is this kind of like, we kind of need some space for some of these things that we want to do, but then it's hard to kind of get rid of some plants because, they're still growing and we still want to get some production from them. And so like, it's making those decisions. Do I keep these things going, or do I just get moving on, And so there's some spaces I have where, I'm not really going to be doing much with when it comes into the, fall and winter time and all of that. So I'm letting a lot of those things just kind of keep going and all of that, and then moving on in some of those other areas.
Yeah, I mean, something like cover crops, which is something that should be on everybody's mind at this point. Sometimes it really needs to be on your mind back in September, because you want to get things established before the light levels really decline and before the cool rains. Certain things like rye, cereal rye, that's a great one. You can, here in the Pacific Northwest, at least for us, you can almost plant that any time of the year and it's going to exhibit some amount of growth, and it will start to anchor the soil. But some of these cover crops, it really is nice if you can get them in September. So there's always a trade-off. It's like I'm waiting for the harvest to finish. And then how long do I wait before I get in there and clear stuff out so that I can plant the cover crop? It's kind of always a tension.
Yeah. You got what kind of things you got? You got anything still kind of holding on in the gardens there, or?
Well, like you mentioned, like the peppers are one of my favorite really fall crops, because they just keep going and going and going. The tomatoes, there's a lot of decline in the tomatoes, and there's a lot of split ones and bad ones, and I'm just getting the occasional tomato now, but the peppers are still looking great. I've got these at my home garden. I got these poblanos and different kinds of Italian roasting peppers, the sweet peppers. And then I've got this great little bush of something called nata hata, which is a habanero, a faux habanero, which not really faux. It just has about 1,000 heat units. So it's got a little heat. A jalapeno is like 5,000 to 10,000 heat units. So this is like a fifth of a jalapeno, which is awesome. But it's got all those fruity flavors of the habanero. So I really like that. I'm putting that on my morning eggs, and I love this time because there's some fresh stuff from the garden that has that summery vibe to it, but it's going away. It's pretty soon it's going to be gone.
Yeah, I know. And again, like I say, bittersweet because we got to say goodbye to all that. But then there's, like I said, there's those great things that we get to look forward to. You mentioned that I think it's also called, I've heard habanada for those habaneros.
That's another one. Yep.
Yeah. And I've got those seeds from you last time we got to see each other this last fall. When almost a year ago, it's been almost
right. Oh my God.
But I got those seeds from you back then too, and I grew one of those plants out this year. So I've got some of those too, and I did try a couple just to test it out to see. And I was like, it gets you nervous because again, the habaneros are really they're pretty intense for me. I love growing all sorts of levels of heat for pepper plants. I'll grow out super hots and all that, but I'm not going. I mean, I like growing them because of it's fun. The pods are cool. The plants are, a challenge even, and but these habanadas, habanero heat is about as far as I'll go, and that's going to be a very rare instance I'm going to do that, right? But these things, you crack them open and they smell just like a regular old habanero.
Oh yeah, they do. Yeah,
you know what I mean. So your sensory response to this is like, oh no, I don't know. You know what I mean? So even when you take a bite into them, the flavor and everything's very similar and everything. You've got the smell, all of that too. And so you're just, your brain is expecting this, just rush of heat and then all, and then it just doesn't come.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even my heart rate will get up a little bit too, because it's like, oh no, this is gonna burn. This is gonna burn. I know this is gonna be like one of those ones that where it says it's this, and then it's gonna be something completely different. And and that experience happens. I mean, I'll grow some jalapenos that'll be hotter than you know what I mean, than a lot of other like peppers, just every now and then they'll just kick it up a little bit more. And that one just gives you that sensory experience that's just kind of a roller coaster, right?
Well, I'll tell you a funny story from our school garden. I every year I write to Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds, and they send a big box of catalogs to school, and we do some activities in the winter out of the seed catalogs, because I want to pass on that joy. That one of the joys of the winter season, of course, is planning for the next year and just looking at the vast array of things that are possible. So we get the seed catalogs and we work through those. And to kind of motivate the kids, I say, all right, well, I want you guys to vote for write down all the things you want to grow in the school garden. Then I'll collect them all, collate them, and the top 10 vote getters, whatever they want to write down, they can write down. But then the ones that get the most mention are top 10. I buy the seeds for, and we actually grow in the garden. So, of course, one of the ones they selected this year was the Carolina Reaper pepper. So I grew 2 of them, but I put them up on a high shelf in the greenhouse so that they're like, at about 8 feet high up. So nobody but me can get up there and get them. And right now they're loaded with fruit. They're all turning red, but even I am like deadly afraid of those things. I'm like, first of all, there's no way I'm ever going to try one. No,
not going to happen.
But I found this parent, there's a couple of parents who are from Syria, and this one dad apparently has this like enormous appetite for hot peppers. So I gave his wife a bag of them the other day, and then I asked if they were ready for more, and she's like, oh yeah, he loves those things. He's ready to eat all you can give him. So I'm like,
oh my,
all right, that's good. I got my anyway, it's
I grew these ones called the Primatali, which are basically kind of like the Carolina Reaper competitor, like that, they're right up in the same heat range.
Okay.
And I had a friend of mine come over, and we did a live stream. So
you did?
So he ate them like live for us. This was this is one of the live streams. In fact, folks can go back, and I'm sure that Jay can find it for everybody and get a link into the chat. But you can go back to our live page, to one of the first live streams that's on there, and you can check that out there too. And
but did you try it?
I wasn't. No, again, too. These are like, you know what I mean. I did several years ago. I think even before I started my channel, I grew a super hot of some sort. I can't remember. It was a ghost or a scorpion or something like that.
Yeah.
And all I did was put a little, just cracked it open and just dipped my tongue on it a little bit. I didn't even eat it. I just dipped my tongue on the edge, and boy, oh boy, that sent me on a ride for, just, oh my gosh. And I was like, I'm never doing that again. Never doing that again.
We can learn from the experiences of others, right? I just
exactly.
I'm never going to try a Carolina Reaper. Thank you, Enid.
But there's always a friend or someone who really, and some folks too, like my neighbor, and again, you're talking about keeping them up on a shelf and away from everybody and everything. I only grow my super hots. We got the rooftop garden now, so I got most of them up there, but also into the back of the carport area too. But I've got a lot of alleyway spaces that a lot of folks know, who follow my channel and everything.
Right.
But out there, I don't grow any of those out there. I don't want them accessible to the public.
Yeah, that's smart.
I don't want people just grabbing them and eating them and not knowing what they're getting and all of that sort of thing. But they are along the walk path for my neighbor. And he's like, oh, what kind of peppers are these? And I was like, oh, these are super hots. You don't want to be messing with those. He's like, oh, I love hot peppers. And I was like, okay, well, you can have one, but definitely, you only want a little bit. He grabbed it, took that whole pod, stuffed it in his mouth and ate it. And I was like, oh my, whoa.
Yeah, right.
Like, I was like, I don't know if he really knew it. And he didn't. He had no clue what he was really getting into. A lot of people think hot peppers and they're thinking,
they're like Oh
they
yeah,
they
I
don't
like
have an
to
understanding
jalapeno
of
every
what
now
that
and again.
means. And he
Yeah.
was it only took like a few seconds before he was very regretful of his decision. And same with my friend who came on the live stream too, because he was another one of those situations like, oh, I love hot peppers, I could do all of that. And
Right.
I share one thing that I always share about that experience with him too, is I've never seen anybody have tears that shoot out of their eyes. You know what I mean? Tears
Oh my
drop and drip
God.
out and come out really. I mean, they literally shot out of his
Oh
eyes.
God, that's
And I
so
was like,
painful.
oh my gosh, you poor guy. But he wasn't as regretful ultimately, but at the same time, it was like, oh, I don't know if I'll do that again. He's like,
Hopefully,
but
hopefully it was like a
he was like,
really
it was a fun
experience.
experience, but no, I don't think I'll do that again.
All right, let's switch tracks and talk about something else here, because I do want to mention this too. One thing that we grew this year that I've grown in the past, but every once in a while is, and especially for kids, because I work with kids mostly at school,
Mm-hmm.
is this Tennessee dancing or spinning gourd. These things are charming. They're these tiny little gourds, about 3 inches tall. They have this like green and white striping, and kids just and they're very prolific. So I grew some vines on a chain link fence that separates one area of our school field from another. And these things just rambled all along the fence. They make all these teeny little gourds. Kids love them because they're just charming size. You could spin them a little bit as a top. Nobody really does that very much, but they just love taking one home in their pocket. It's like you just gave them the biggest treasure in the world. So those, and we did also grow a big swan neck gourd this year that I'm going to dry out and make into a birdhouse. So the gourds are really fascinating and really fun to have around too, as like art objects and just curiosities and, useful. I'm going to try to grow some basket gourds next year that we can actually use for storage, and that should be fun.
Oh yeah, those are great. I got to add some gourds this next year as well too. Get some of those. I really like those the big long one, or the big long or the curled ones and stuff that we were growing before. I saw those last time I was up there at the school garden with you too. Those look really cool.
Yeah, one year we grew these kikinda gourds that grow to like 6 feet tall, and I don't know if that was the year you were out, but they shot up this tree. Cherry tree, and
I think those are the ones. Yeah.
5-foot gourds dangling from the cherry tree.
Yeah.
Pretty intense.
Those are really cool.
And
you still got seeds for those?
Well, a parent gave me some seeds for the gourds that we grew this year, and then I saved some seeds from the Tennessee dancing gourd, but we didn't let the kikinda gourds go long enough to really harden, so I didn't get any seed out of that. So I'd have to reorder it.
Oh, right on. Yeah. I'd love to grow that one sometime.
A lot of these gourds are edible too at a young stage. I mean, there's like the loofah gourd is edible. The kikinda gourd we've cooked up to like 3 to 3.5 feet long. It's still very tender. There's an Italian gourd called Kakuzi that's kind of a culinary gourd. So they're really multi-use. You can, like let's say you grow loofah gourds, you can do the first batch for eating and then let some go and let them mature and get the sponge out of them.
Right on. Yeah,
So
definitely.
that's a great crop to think about in the future too. It's really fun and, like I said, useful in a lot of ways, and the kids love those little tiny ones. So worth looking at.
Definitely. Right on. Well, let's get moving on today. We got a really fun book club for everybody here. So we'll be right back here in just a moment to get our book club started.
Okay, I'm not going anywhere.
All right.
Hi, my name is Charles Malky, biologist and plant expert with Ivory Organics, where we grow cool plants and author Saving the World with the Home Garden. Ivory Organic 3-in-1 Plant Guard has 7 natural oils that protect your plants, not just from the summer heat as well as winter cold, but also protects your plants from damaging insects and rodents. The oils in the product include castor, cinnamon, clove, garlic, peppermint, rosemary, and spearmint. These oils are natural insect and rodent repellent oils, which are encapsulated by the base powder, offering your plants months of protection at a time. One application per year will suffice for protection against damaging summer sunburn and winter sun scald, but if the target is pest, application as much as 2 to 3 times a year may be necessary.
So, all right, everybody, we got a great book for you here for this month's monthly book club. All right. So let's welcome back our good friend Mark Boucher Colbert, Mr. Oh, okay,
there we go. Now I'm back.
There we go. All right. Time for our monthly gardening book club. This month
let
we're
me tell you
talking
something about this book, Enoch. I mean, like a lot, but all our books have been great books. I mean, there's not been a book that we have read and done on this show that hasn't really just been an awesome book, and our conversations with the authors are awesome. But I tell you, this book rocked my world. And I've been in gardening and agriculture for 30 years now, so this book made me wish I were 20 years old reading this book. And I was like, I want to be this new carboneer that she talks about, this new ecological hero. I've been making biochar in a limited way, and I can't wait to get more into it. But this book totally lit my fire, so to speak. So
there you go. That's the perfect one, right? Lit your fire for sure.
I mean, it's like, wow, this is like, okay, so everyone, you need this book. This is not optional. So this is not like one of these like, oh, this would be nice. It's like, you need this book.
Yes, definitely. And again, too, like I said, as we were talking before we got into this month's book, I haven't been that familiar. I've talked with other folks about biochar and all that. It's not something that I've really gotten too much, opportunity to learn about myself. So this was just really awesome to be able to just dig into this book and really learn a lot more about biochar and how I can use it, especially for my own home garden. So just, just really, again, like you said, a really great book. We definitely love all of our book selections around here, but I definitely agree with you. This is one of those ones that's really a must-have. You got to have this on your garden bookshelf for sure, definitely. So right on. Let's do. I'm sorry.
Let's say this too. It's a combo between like readability. So there's definitely some really great parts in it that are just like super readable and anybody can approach. Other parts of it will kind of work you a little bit mentally, like this.
Yes.
Kelpie, as she says herself, she's got a background both as a journalist and as a scientist. I'm eager to hear more about that, but she brings both to the table and she doesn't shy away. Like she doesn't try to oversimplify the science necessarily. And yet not just like a dense textbook. It's like there's plenty of stories, jokes, diagrams, and other things that make it accessible. But it's like a book that I'm going to have to go back to. It's not like, oh, done, read that, done.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, man.
I totally agree. I mean, there was a lot of stuff in there where I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to come back to this, so I can get a little bit more into it and really be able to spend some time with these particular, segments of it for sure. Definitely.
I mean,
so,
you
all
could
right.
do a college course. Like this would be a great textbook for a college course, like to really like just dive in and explore there's just so many aspects to it. It's going to be so great. But
Right on. Well, she's here with us today. We've been holding her off for long enough. Let's say Kelpie Wilson is a mechanical engineer and analyst with decades of experience in renewable energy, sustainable forestry, and resource conservation. And she's here with us today to talk about this amazing book, the Biochar Handbook. So everybody, let's welcome to the show this month's book club, Kelpie Wilson. Awesome, Kelpie. Great to have you here with us today.
Wow, I'm just blown away by your endorsements, you guys.
Oh yeah, no, I'll talk this book up and down, man. You got a big fan right here.
I know. We're just gonna have to let Mark take over this show for sure. He loves it for sure.
I'll be your PR manager. Just hire me. I'll just go anywhere you want me to and just promote the book.
You got it.
Absolutely. Right on. Right on. Well, Kelpie, thank you so much for being here. It's really wonderful to have you here, part of our book club. Again, just a really great book. And definitely, like Mark said, a must read for folks out there. And definitely something I'm going to have to go back and read more about. It's so full of just wonderful information and everything. But real quick here, before we really dig into everything, I'll give you a minute here, kind of introduce yourself to everybody else. Let us know a little bit more about you and all of that as well.
Sure. Yeah, my pleasure to be here. Thanks for asking me. So let's see. I've been doing biochar since 2008. I think I first heard about it in around 2007, which was at a moment in time when I was kind of depressed, honestly, about the state of the world. I was just really trying to get my hands in the dirt because that always makes me feel better. And so I was really getting back into gardening in a more serious way than I ever had before. And I heard about this biochar thing. At that time, it was just called terra preta. That's how we knew it, from these soils in the Amazon. And I was reading about it and thinking, this is so interesting. And my first thought about it was because, when you're doing organic gardening, you're always having to rebuild your soil every you haul in so much manure and try to make compost and add more organic matter all the time, and it just shrinks. It just shrinks every year, and you got to do it all over again. And when I heard about the terra preta and biochar, I thought, this is like permanent compost.
Yeah.
This could make my gardening life easier.
Yeah.
And, I was working as a journalist then. And so, started writing stories about it. And then I kind of ran into a dead end. There was nothing more to report because there wasn't a lot happening. So that's how I got into it, doing it myself and exploring it myself. And I ended up working for the International Biochar Initiative. I went to the very first ever biochar conference in Australia in 2007. Met all the soil scientists. There were about 100 people in the world at that time who were into this.
Wow.
And, worked for the IBI, helped them develop worked with the scientists who were developing the standards and, was their technical writer, basically. And then, I've just jumped in feet first and here I am.
Oh my God, what a journey.
Yeah, that's so wonderful. And again, too, you could tell the years of education and that you've had in this sort of thing through this book. It's just like Mark said, this is definitely could be a college course for sure. I felt like I was taking a college course reading through this book for sure.
Could I mention that I have a college course?
Oh, yes. There we go.
So there's a group called Regenerative Living Online.
Okay.
And it's run by a former OSU, Oregon State University extension person who did their permaculture extension. So he's very knowledgeable, Javan, can't remember his last name, can't pronounce his last name, but Javan. Anyway, he runs this and he has a lot of really interesting different courses that you can take. And he invited me after the book came out to do a course. So I have a 9-session course.
Oh my God.
That he offered live last winter, and it's now available in the self-paced version. So you can go anytime and take this course. It's a couple $100, but it's like 15 hours of lectures and lots of extra, materials. And so if you really want to nerd out, it's really, this is, the Biochar Handbook is the textbook for the course.
Excellent. And our facilitator, Jay, has put a link in our chat there for everybody if you want to go and check that out at Regenerative Living Online.
That is so cool. So, Kelpie, let me say this. This is like biochar. It's something ancient and yet new, right? It's like you document all these ancient and older societies that used biochar and seems to be pretty globally distributed. And yet then there was seems like this period of forgetting. And I have a little story about this too. I was living in Brazil between 2002 and 2004. And I remember reading this magazine in Portuguese. It was kind of like a news magazine, kind of glossy with lots of diagrams and things and little short blurbs. and they did this thing on terra preta, which is the terra preta, you know, the black earth that they was recently coming to light, being discovered. So it was like right around 2003. That was the first hear about it. It's like, oh, that's interesting, Amazon. And then, so it just seems like there's a lot of novelty here. There's kind of a reason why people don't know about biochar, right? It's being rediscovered recently. It hasn't been around in the popular consciousness. So say a little more about that, like how
About
it was so
the
widespread.
history and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, where did biochar go?
So-
How come it disappeared?
That's the first chapter in the book, is the history of biochar. And it was really one of my favorites to write because I actually made some historical discoveries just by going on to Google Books and reading old journals from the 1900 or the 1800s. So the 19th century. And so, yes, people have always burned fields, right? As a way of nutrient cycling, and there's minerals in the ash, and there's always char. And so, the soil scientists kind of discovered these terra preta soils, and then in Brazil and the Amazon, and then they started looking around and finding similar soils in Africa, in Asia, and even like the middens around a medieval city, a walled city, have charcoal. And this is kind of a natural process where people, would deodorize their waste with ash from the cooking fire or the heating fire. So there would naturally be little chunks of charcoal in it, and that charcoal stays, right? Because it doesn't break down. That's the real secret to biochar, is it's carbon that doesn't break down, because carbon comes in different forms. Think of a diamond as a form of carbon, very stable. Charcoal is somewhere between a diamond and a piece of wood. So
right.
yeah, so it's easy to find evidence of charcoal in soils, in agricultural soils all over the world. It was very concentrated in the Amazon because the soils are so poor there without it, being highly leached in the rain. All the nutrients are leach out, then all the nutrients in the rainforest are in the living vegetation. So the nutrients cycle very quickly and they don't really build up in the soil very much. So that's where it was most obvious. But what was really interesting and fascinating to me was learning that that Justus Liebig, the father of agricultural chemistry and NPK, right? Chemical agriculture, we organic people are like, Justus Liebig, he had brought in this synthetic.
Right. Boo.
But he actually found out about biochar early on by reading things from Asia, some reports from Asia about it. And so it was used in China and Japan, and there was a big controversy in the 1800s around how to deal with sewage, as the cities, like London, had to populations grew. They had to do something with all the poop, and what they had done was to truck it out to the farmer fields, and they would deodorize it with ash from the cooking fires and the fireplaces, so it had ash and charcoal in it. But who wants to deal with buckets of poop? So the flush toilet was invented. And now we had raw sewage in the Thames, and people dying of diphtheria and cholera and all these diseases. And so there were like decades of controversy about what to do with it. And Justus Liebig actually weighed in on that, sent a letter to the Parliament in London saying, you really should use charcoal to deodorize this waste and make a much better fertilizer. If you just use ash, it doesn't really preserve the nutrients. You need to use charcoal. But they didn't take that to heart. And so there were a lot of articles. If you go to Google Books and look up old agricultural journals like the New York Agricultural Society, there's a bunch of them, and you just type charcoal, you'll find like pages and pages of information about how farmers were using charcoal, mostly to manage manure and muck.
Yeah, I love that term that you use, muck management.
Well, there were books. I have them. I can go on eBay and get these old books. They're fascinating. And there's what it's called a muck manual. Several people wrote these. They called them muck manuals because before we had synthetic fertilizer, that's how we had to grow food. We had to use animal manure or human manure, but animal manure. All farms had animals, and so what happened was there was a lot of information developed, very good information about this, and then after World War I, I guess, is when the synthetic fertilizer industry really ramped up with the Haber-Bosch process that created nitrogen out of natural gas. So we're eating petroleum. That's what's feed the world. Is petroleum, fossil fuels. So yeah, and that was just all lost at once synthetic nitrogen came on board.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found all of that historical stuff just really, that's what really kind of really got me going right at the beginning, really digging into a lot of that stuff and why, we come to understand all of that. But let's kind of work through the book a little bit here too, starting again too, right, with what is biochar? Right?
Yeah.
What is biochar?
It's just charcoal. When I was working for the IBI, we were coming up with the characterization standards for how to determine what is biochar. It was a very broad definition because charcoal can be made from a lot of different materials. You can make it from wood, you could make it from nutshells, you can even make it from manure. Any organic material that has carbon in it can be turned into some form of biochar. And then it makes a big difference what temperature you make it at. So, for instance, there's a spectrum between, on the one hand, barbecue charcoal, which is made at low temperature, and it has a lot of tars and oils in it that are great for fuel, but can cause you some problems in the garden. And then at the high temperature end is something like activated carbon that we would use for filtration. And, you would put in your aquarium filter or a water filter, and that's made at a high temperature. And then it's again processed further to create even more surface area. So, but that's a huge range of materials. They can all actually find some value in soil. But the definition of biochar is just charcoal that's suitable for use in soil. And then, a lot of times you have to further process it to actually make it good for soil.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I think the first, when I came back to the States and got back integrated here, I think it was another maybe like 10 years before I really heard about biochar again, really like actively in agriculture and as like a climate solution. And I have to say, at first, I was really puzzled because to me, like burning wood, it's like, well, especially if you think about the Amazon, it's like we're taking the rainforest and burning them, where we're creating all this additional pollution. Or in Oregon, we've lived through many different fires and we realized, oh my God, fire, particulate matter in the air. This is horrible. This is polluting. We don't want that. So I had to get over this little hump that I think you explained really well in the book about like how does burning wood and other organic material actually contribute to overall carbon capture, cooling. You cite a book that says the title is you using fire to cool the earth. I love that paradox. But I had a block in my mind for a while. Can you explain to people who are watching how this burning can actually be good?
Yeah, it's a hard one to get over, because nobody likes to see smoke. I live in Oregon as well, and I have a history of working for forest protection here, and very concerned about our forests. But what I've had to realize is that forest burning is natural. Our forests are adapted to fire; they need to burn. And because we've suppressed fire here for so long, we've created conditions where when they do burn, they burn catastrophically.
Right.
So, the native people here learned how to manage forests, so that was less likely to happen. And they did it for many reasons, partly nutrient cycling and, promoting new growth of plants that they use culturally. And so, they did what we would call today prescribed burning, and that's sort of a new thing that's happening more and more in the West. and it's a good thing, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, you know, some burning is good, and it's like the elements, right? You've got water, you've got air, you've got earth, and you have fire, and you cannot ignore fire because it will come back and get you if you do.
Yeah.
Now, not every forest is fire adapted. You know, I don't think the Amazon is really supposed to burn a lot, but you know, the amount of biochar that we need to improve our garden soils is not that great. And so we can make it as part of forest management that benefits the forest. We can also make it from our waste streams. You know, there's a biomass power plant in Medford, Oregon, that I've worked with a lot.
Right here where I'm at.
Yeah, there we go, Nick.
Okay, God, we're all neighbors, man.
Yeah, we are, huh?
I didn't realize that. So Biomass One, they've been around for 40 years, I think, and it's a 30 megawatt plant, so that, you know, that's a good amount of energy, and their fuel comes mainly from green waste from the cities and from some of the sawmills. So they're not going out and cutting down trees in the forest to burn. We have these incredible waste streams that we are incredibly mismanaged.
Yeah.
And cities are actually a great place to harness those waste streams because that's where they accumulate and pile up. And when you have a piled up waste stream, you know, what do you do with it? Some of us are just awash in wood chips. You know, we can't really use any more wood chips. And so this power plant burns those wood chips and makes electricity. And they also have figured out how to make biochar because these wood boilers, we call them, it's just a big furnace that boils hot water to make steam and electricity.
Right.
They naturally they're naturally a little bit inefficient, just the way they're designed, that the little particles of ash get blown out of the furnace, and that they have a cyclone filter that collects them, and that stuff is 40% charcoal. So Biomass One just figured out a way to sift out the ash. So they make a beautiful biochar product that y'all can go and buy. Go pick it up at the plant. It's really cheap. You can buy it a cubic yard at a time. And so that is, you know, that's another way to make biochar that's very environmentally friendly. That power plant's already making electricity, and now it makes carbon, and they're getting carbon credits, carbon removal credits.
Oh man, yeah.
Help their bottom line. So, you know, there's lots of different ways to make biochar, including very small scale. One of the things I teach, and I think there's a picture in the book, is how to make it in a kettle grill on your back porch.
Right. Yeah, definitely lots of, we'll get into making it here in a minute, but one of the things, you got a nice little list here too about what biochar is supposed to do in the soil. I'll read through some of them. Maybe you can kind of combine them together here for us a little bit and give us a good explanation. But your list includes improves tilth and reduces soil bulk density, increases soil water holding capacity, increases cation exchange capacity, the ability to hold on to and transfer nutrient cations, ammonium, calcium, magnesium, and potassium, improves fertilizer utilization by reducing leaching from the root zone, retains minerals in plant available form, supports soil microbial life and biodiversity, helps plants resist diseases and pathogens, helps plants grow better in high salt situations. And I'm sure there's others as well too that probably didn't get included in that list, but that's a lot of things that biochar can do in our soil.
Yeah, some of those things are just things that carbon does.
Right.
But like I said, biochar's permanent. So,
Yeah.
But I think the water holding capacity is one of the most important things, actually, for us here in the West, where we have summer droughts. That's one of the things that I'm most interested in is, you know, what we can do to keep moisture in our soils, because that's a big problem throughout the country, actually.
Yeah.
Well, I liked your simple test that anybody could do, and I'm going to, you know, try this next year, is mix some biochar in with soil in a couple of different pots at different ratios, one with no biochar, one with this, make sure it's nicely moistened, etc. But then plant your favorite plants in there. You got to be ready to sacrifice one or two of them, and then just stop watering and watch what happens. So that's a pretty easy demonstration for us to learn. It's just like, oh yeah, the one with the biochar is going to last the longest because it holds moisture.
Yeah, I've seen that over and over.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that's also really important for container gardeners as well as too.
Oh,
like
yeah.
myself, is retaining moisture is a really important part of being able to grow what we're growing in containers.
Mm-hmm.
Let me circle back a little bit to my question prior, because you answered it on the kind of the larger scale, which is awesome, and forest management, and that's burning of the forest and all that sort of thing. But from the home gardener's perspective, or the camp, let's say the campfire burner's perspective, even I live in Multnomah County in Portland, and we have burn restrictions, on certain days. We're like, don't, with the idea being, all right, we're going to not want to release a lot of these particulates and all this sort of thing. But what I really learned from you, and I think people need to understand this when they start making biochar, is there is a science to making fire, and you can make it in such a way that it burns very cleanly, right? I mean, so we get the benefit of the biochar and don't get that pollution. Tell us about that. Tell us about the science of fire and how to burn clean.
Yeah. So, the fire triangle.
Yeah.
So what do you need to make a fire? You need fuel, you need air, and you need heat to get it started and keep it going. And so, a lot of people think they know how to burn things because, we went to Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts and we made a campfire, and and we don't really know the best way to burn things. So you want to optimize those all those three parts of the triangle and to get a clean burn, because what is smoke but incomplete combustion?
Yes. Okay.
So that's all it is. And if you look at a campfire that's burning and burning well, and it's got a nice flame that covers the whole top of the fire, what's happening is that flame is providing heat. It radiates heat. It's like a little miniature sun. That's why you stand in front of it and you feel the heat. You don't have to touch it. You feel the heat. It radiates. Okay. And so a lot of people, when they start a fire, what they learned in a camp or whatnot is that heat rises. Okay. And that there's three methods of heat transfer: conduction, convection, and radiation. Well, conduction is when you touch the hot stove, right? It conducts heat into it. Radiation is like the sun. And then convection is not really a separate form of heat transfer. It's just that heat rises. It's the buoyancy effect of hot air. Hot air expands and it rises. So we feel like what we need to do when we light a fire is light at the very bottom, because the heat's going to rise and catch the rest of the thing on fire. And that's the only way to start a fire. And what happens when you do that, when you light it at the bottom, you get a little flame going underneath a pile of cold wood. That cold wood, when the heat hits it, it starts heating up, and the first thing that happens is any moisture in the wood comes out. So there's a drying phase, and then the next thing that happens is the smoke gases start coming out, and there's no flame yet. That comes later. And then those gases come out and they leave, and then they hit the cool air and they condense into smoke. So the whole idea here is to put the flame on top. That's why I call it the flame cap. The flame cap is what you want. So you want to light it closer to the top, so you get that flame forming at the top much sooner, and that burns the smoke. So a flame is nothing but burning smoke. That's what a flame is. So you want to funnel all your smoke into the flame so it burns it up, and then it's clean. And so it starts with how you light the fire, basically. And so, you want to light it close to the top. Yes, you do have to have your match stick or your ignition point underneath this, your tinder that you're burning. But you want to develop that flame as fast as you can right on the top. And you don't need to light it underneath because the heat will transfer downward into the pile by radiation. And it'll just burn clean the whole time. And it'll actually burn faster because, and I see this a lot in burn piles. So, live in Oregon, where everybody's got burn piles in the fall. It's starting now. And I'll drive out in the valley and I'll just see smoke and smoke and smoke from these big, poorly constructed burn piles. And I just want to go to everyone and say, look, you're doing it wrong. But, we're doing workshops. We're slowly, teaching people the right way to do it, because it just goes so much faster. Because if you light your pile, down at the bottom, and it just kind of smokes and smolders all day long, it just takes longer. If you light it on the top, it's going to go a lot faster because there's more heat.
Yeah. Right on. Well, just again, too, just a little reading out of the book here, too, as we move into making biochar here. I thought this was a great little couple of paragraphs here to start chapter 3. You say a big part of the fun of biochar is making it. I never knew I was a pyromaniac until I got into biochar. But who doesn't love a thrifty campfire, a blazing bonfire, or a mouth-watering barbecue? Break out the marshmallows and I will tell you a story. In the old days, the hearth was the center of the home. Images appeared in the dancing flames, fueling the imaginations of poets and musicians, the source of culture and communal life. Fire also powers our social engines, and that's a lot of the attraction of the biochar life for me. Making your own biochar can be as simple as that campfire. If you have a match and some sticks, you can do it. However, that doesn't mean you don't have a lot to learn about how to do it safely, efficiently, and cleanly. I give a lot of workshops and trainings on how to make biochar, 80 or more in the last 10 years. And I always start by telling people how not to make biochar. So how about we start there with how not to make biochar?
Yeah, it's really something that we've all had to overcome, in these years of promoting biochar, because people think of charcoal, fuel charcoal. Humans have been making fuel charcoal forever. And usually they make it in a covered pit that's a slow, smoldering, smoky fire that lasts for days. And it's just the opposite of what I've been talking about. And so, that's just how charcoal was made. And there's been a lot of work, actually. When I first got involved in biochar, the International Cook Stove community was really interested, because they had been looking at, so many people, like 2 billion people in the world still cook their meals on an open fire of some kind. And in the cities in Africa and Asia, where they don't have gas to cook with, they don't have electricity, they prefer charcoal because it is cleaner. And so there's huge charcoal making industries that are very wasteful of wood. They're very inefficient, very polluting. So there's been a lot of international work on trying to find alternatives to that. And so, some of them have involved, better, cleaner ways of charcoal production. So there's a lot of, information out there about how dirty charcoal making is. So that's one of the first things that we've needed to overcome, is to demonstrate that, yes, there's clean ways of making charcoal. You don't want to do it the old-fashioned way.
All right.
Yeah, this idea of like the things that would come off from the fire at a high temperature, but they get stuck on, like the tars and all the byproducts. That's interesting, right? I mean, it's, as you said before, the temperature at which you make the charcoal, the biochar, really determines the effects it could have on the soil. I mean, some of that low temp biochar, like, I don't want to go get like briquettes from a grocery store and throw that in my soil, right? Because that's low temp kind of stuff.
Well, there's some caveats, because I wouldn't use briquettes because I don't know what's in them.
Yeah, there's other.
But,
right.
There might be
possibly other
binders, there might be accelerants, I don't know. But
Yeah.
lump hardwood charcoal, you can buy that, mesquite or oak. And that can be okay for soil, but it's still low temperature char.
Yeah.
And of course, and you don't know how it was made, but it could have been made okay in an okay way. But well, the thing about it is it's got a lot of degradable carbon in it. So if you put a lot of that in your soil, it's like adding sawdust.
Gotcha.
So you get nitrogen tie-up that's temporary because the microbes go, oh, wow, look at all this carbon I can eat. Now I need some nitrogen to balance it. So they go after all the nitrogen.
Right.
And so, but it's temporary. So if you were to take that charcoal and crush it up and put it in your compost, then that it would go through that whole process with the microbes, and it would be fine. It would be fine in your compost.
Right.
And in fact, I recommend doing that with any biochar is compost it first.
Yeah, that's interesting. So instead of just applying it directly to the soil, you talked about building it into the compost and then it goes into the soil.
Yeah, because with a high temperature biochar, you have another interest. It's sort of it also ties up nitrogen, but in a completely different way, just because it's so absorptive. So it will absorb nitrogen and generally convert it to nitrate because it supports the bacteria that do that. And then it stays in the char, which is great. But again, it's a temporary thing where if you overload your soil with even a clean high temperature char, it will absorb the nitrogen. And for that particular crop, it might suffer. You generally want to charge it up with nutrients first. One exception to that would be I would add raw biochar or plain, high temperature biochar into soil in a decent amount in the fall and plant a legume cover crop because the legumes will fix their own nitrogen. And by the spring, it'll be all nicely ready for your main crop.
Gotcha.
That's awesome. Yeah, definitely. And so in making biochar, we talk a lot about here in the book as well, these various different kilns. So maybe you could kind of go through some of these different kilns that you talk about in the book. Plus, also you don't necessarily need one, I suppose, for backyard garden and all that. Maybe you can talk about that as well.
Yeah, well, a lot of people have a little fire pit.
Yeah.
So so the issue, so I can make biochar in a burn pile, and all I do it's again because wood burns in stages. And the first stage is that whole outgassing in the flame. And then when the flame dies down and you're looking at those glowing coals, right, at the end of the evening, the flames are down and everybody's ready to head off to bed and you're looking at the glowing coals. And instead of letting those burn to ash, you just put it out with water. And then you pick those chunks of charcoal out and you got it. So whether that's in an open pile or a container of some kind like a fire pit, you can do that. The flame cap kilns that I've been developing for quite a few years now are a little bit more controlled. So they control the air a little better so that you can actually make more char. They're more efficient. And that can be as simple as the barbecue, the kettle grill. The thing is, though, that has a little vent at the bottom with air holes. You want to close that. So you build a small fire in the kettle or the container of any kind, the flame cap kiln, and then you let that burn down until it starts to ash, and then you throw more material on, and you keep throwing more material on until it's full of glowing coals. And what that does to have the container, the flame cap kiln, is not letting any air come from the bottom. You get less ash. So all the air from the top. It actually makes a safer fire because you don't get shooting flames at all or embers from airflow flowing through the material since it all the top, the flames stay low.
That's a great point.
And and you just keep piling on the wood until it's full and then you put it out with water. So that's what the flame cap kiln is about. And even a small one like that can make biochar very efficiently. If you had a kettle grill, you could go find an old kettle grill on a yard sale somewhere. You go to the supermarket and buy a couple of bundles of kindling
Yeah.
And that's all you need. And a match. You can make biochar.
And
Pretty simple.
Waste is like I have a bunch of fruit trees on my property. Every year I get a certain amount of waste. I'm pulling up corn stalks. At school, we made I was been working with the kids on biochar, and we just made some out of sunflower stalks. We also made some really great stuff out of Douglas fir cones, which we have in abundance all over the grounds.
Yeah.
So there's, it's like there's a lot of materials out there that you could be gathering.
Yeah.
And in the I love that small scale approach of just like a barbecue grill, because that is so accessible to anybody. Anybody who wants to do that can do that.
Yeah, and I love what you guys are doing with urban gardening. I think that's really, really important. Empower everybody. You can, at the very minimum, you can grow some salad greens, and and it's just not that hard, and you have fresh food, and that there's nothing better for your health. So, I really applaud the urban gardening approach.
Yeah, yeah, and it's great too. Again, like I said, that you can take something as simple as this, grill, and be able to, do this. This is probably the method that I'm going to be using. I have one of those old grills too. So again, for an urban farmer, backyard gardener, that sort of thing, it's really, really, like you said, Mark, really accessible. And
if you've got one of those fire pits that has a lot of holes around it, just pile up dirt around the holes.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
After reading your book too, we'd have a campfire or two outside at night, because it's getting to be fall now. I tell you, I'm out in the morning scavenging all the charcoal pieces. I'm like, all right, we're gonna get this stuff. This is the good stuff. So
I gotta say something here though about that, because
okay, please do.
When you use biochar, you recognize that it's got ash in it.
Yeah.
So that's going to make it alkaline.
Right.
And it's really important to test your pH. You need to know your soil pH, and you need to know the pH of the amendments that you're putting in any great quantity. Here where I live, in the West, in the Pacific Northwest, where we have a fair amount of rain on the west side, our soils tend to be acidic. Yeah. And so I know some farmers who are loving biochar because lime is really expensive.
Yeah.
So it's a liming agent. But in other parts of the country, or even on the east side of Oregon, the soils can be pretty alkaline. Anywhere where it's kind of dry, or if you have like alkaline clays. I was really surprised at one place I was working where I didn't test the soil pH, and we had a little bit of a yield decrease after we added biochar, and I realized, their soil pH was close to 8, and I just made it more alkaline. So that's when you're using biochar, I guess a couple things. One, try to charge it up with nutrients, and in your compost first, and second, check the pH before you apply it to soil. And I use the pH paper. I don't use a meter. I don't think those are very reliable. So you get a good quality pH test paper. It's not expensive, and you can just learn a lot. Test your soil, test your amendments.
Yeah, always good to be testing things to be sure that you're applying the right things in the right amount, right? And real quick here too, before I get moving on to everybody's questions, we got several questions from the audience here too. I want to work through here in just a moment, but let's also talk about, another thing. We're talking about fire, talking about all this sort of stuff. Let's talk a little bit about safety too. It's kind of, important thing as well too. So tell us a little bit about some of the, things that we should be mindful of when it comes to safety and creating our biochar.
Yeah, well, I do a lot of work with kids as well. We have different summer camps we've done, and winter fire camps. And the first thing I'd say is tie your hair back.
Oh yeah, that's a good. That's
not a problem.
Yeah, believe me, it's not.
Yeah, and you don't want loose, flappy things, on your clothing, and you want to. So that's all important. Wear natural fibers, not don't show up with your down jacket or your your synthetic coat, your nylon coat, your fleece, because those things are flammable. So wear cotton or wool. And it's very important to have good footwear. And it's the most important thing, because it's tripped me up literally, is watch your step, look for tripping hazards. You're moving wood. And I do these things with giant kilns. I have this big kiln called the Ring of Fire kiln that I sell.
Yeah.
And I've sold hundreds of them. It's become quite popular. But it's big. And so this is for processing, large amounts of slash and forest debris. And so we're in the woods and there's sticks lying everywhere and you just don't want to trip and fall.
Yeah.
So situational awareness, working around fire like that is really, really, really important. So how you dress, have the appropriate clothing and footwear, and then situational awareness. And, always have water on hand. I don't light anything unless I have a live hose.
Yeah.
Or in the case of a smaller fire, at least a 5-gallon bucket of water right there. Have the appropriate tools. You need a shovel. You need a good rake. And yeah, just basic fire safety. What you need.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, it's a fire, so we want to definitely make sure that folks are being safe and
day,
Yeah.
That's your biggest problem. I'll burn in the rain, no problem, but don't burn on a windy day. And get your fire permit. Stay within the regulations.
Yeah.
I think for people, in Multnomah County, there's two concerns with fire. One is fire safety and fire season. We don't burn outside of fire season. In the summer, we only burn, when you can get a burn permit. And then there's also air quality, which in my part of rural Oregon, we're not really restricted, but it can be restricted.
Yeah.
In areas, because if there's an inversion and there's already smoke in the air, you don't want to add more to it. But for a backyard fire pit, you're really not going to make much smoke, especially if you light your fire the right way.
If you do the top flame method like you outlined, you can really reduce the amount of smoke.
Well, we've always try to invite local fire officials to a new area where we're doing burns, and so we invited our local fire chief to come out couple years ago when I was testing a kiln, and gave him the address and come out and see what we're doing. And we were almost done with the burn and he hadn't showed up. I'm like, wonder what happened to him. Finally, he walks up. He says, I was looking for the smoke. I couldn't find you. In the back,
Yeah.
So I finally found you because I heard the crackling flames.
So I know, Enoch, you want to do some questions, but let me ask you this one thing about biochar. If you had a biochar non-believer who was like, I don't know about biochar, but a gardener, somebody who was like passionate gardener was like, I don't know about biochar, blah, 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 this and that, looks messy, blah, blah, I don't know. If you had to grab them by the lapels and say, look, I'm going to take you to one thing that I've seen and show you what would be the one thing you would show them to say, look, if I've seen this is so-and-so's farm, this is my backyard garden, this is what it was like. What is the best success story you've seen with biochar, like the most mind-blowing thing?
Ooh, well, it's really hard to pinpoint success on any one thing, especially as gardeners, because we're doing all kinds of things all the time.
Yeah, that's true.
I would point to my garden. I grow all my own vegetables for 2 families and have for years, and just the accumulation of biochar in my garden. I think, my experiments have proved it to me.
Yeah.
So, and those are usually small pot trial experiments. And so I think the one that really did it for me was, and in the book, there's an appendix that shows you exactly how to do a scientifically valid pot trial.
Yeah.
Compare different amendments. And so the one that did it for me was where we had made biochar compost with our homemade biochar, and I had a sample of it and I wanted to test it, and I just picked the little chunks of charcoal out, not using any of the compost. And I did my pot trial and I compared that with a control and also with some worm castings that
Mhm.
didn't have any charcoal in them. I'm talking like a tablespoon of crushed up charcoal picked out of a compost pile in a 4-inch pot with a plain peat potting soil. And the growth difference was amazing.
Really?
Yeah, amazing. And this is just this in this type of bioassay, we call it. You just plant cucumber seeds,
Oh,
the
so
same
yeah, those
number.
pictures, you have the pictures of that in the book.
Yeah, the same
Sure.
number of cucumber seeds in the pot. You water and you do replicates. So I did like five replicates of this treatment, and then
Mm.
5 replicates of another treatment, and then 5 replicates of the control. You plant the same number of cucumber seeds. It's like, I think 17. And then you water everything the same, like you measure out the water, so the water's exactly the same. Then you put a little drink cup on top to make a little humidity dome.
Okay.
And then I put it I put it under grow lights for 2 weeks, and you don't touch it. You just let it grow. And then you look at, you take all of them, and I took pictures. You could really see that just the charcoal, not any of the compost, grew much more biomass, had more true leaves, more growth nodes, and just looked healthier. So that really proved it for me, was that little experiment that, yep, this has a very, very much a growth stimulating effect. And what happens there, when you put the biochar in the compost, it absorbs a lot of the nutrients and the microbes move in. So the way biochar really works in soil is it's like a hotel for microbes.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, we've learned so much in the last couple decades about soil. It's not just dirt. It's alive. If we
That's
want
right.
to grow good plants, we feed the microbes in the soil. So we feed the soil, not the plant.
Right.
Yeah.
Microbes interact with the roots and help your plants grow.
Yeah.
And so, that charcoal is in the compost. It's absorbing nutrients. It's holding water. The microbes are living there. And so when I put that in that little pot, it's more than just giving it nutrients. It's giving it a whole microbial ecology. And the little seeds sprout there, and they immediately get the benefit of those microbes.
Yeah, definitely leads us good lead into our first question here from the gardening channel with Hot Potato. Thank you for your questions here, everyone. And it says, what are excellent ways to inoculate or charge biochar with beneficial microbes and nutrients?
Well, a lot of what we've been talking about, composting. My contention is that the very best way to use biochar is to use it to manage other organic waste streams. Here's another success that really impressed me, was working with a beef operation, grass-fed beef operation. We put biochar in the winter feed barn. So just laid it down before the cows came in for those winter months.
Yeah.
They poop on it, they pee on it, they crush it up, they mix it. And when we compared what we got from that compost pile when they cleaned out the barn to the year before, where there was no biochar, there's like 8 times the amount of nitrogen in that.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
And it makes your composting so much easier. It goes so much faster. So I always layer in this is described in detail in the book. I'm in kind of a suburban, semi-rural area. My garden's not huge. I have 1.5 acres of land, but I have, I think I have 1,800 square feet of actual garden beds. And I have food waste. And what I do with my food waste is I collect it in a bucket with biochar and bokashi, which is a lactobacillus inoculant. And I actually ferment it for a few weeks before I put it in my outdoor compost pile. That helps it break down immediately. The biochar is in there already charged with nutrients from the food waste. And then that stuff stimulates the rest of the compost, which is more like garden weeds and leaves and, stalks and things like that. So it just I can make compost in half the time, and it's, way more than twice as valuable and full of nutrients. So using it to manage whatever organic waste stream you have, whether it's your food waste from your kitchen, which everybody has,
Yes.
or, maybe you've got backyard chickens or whatnot, but that's the best way. If you don't have, you don't want to deal with your food waste that way, and you want to charge it up some other way, you can just soak it in fish emulsion. A lot of people use that. So a liquid fertilizer of any kind.
Okay.
That's a
Yeah.
good way to charge it up.
All right. And I think you kind of answered this one here as well, too, but we'll just pop it up real quick and say, yes, it's in the book. Is the method of treatment for manure with biochar in the book?
I do have more to say about that, actually.
Okay,
so
let's do it.
So again, I don't know what kind of animals you have, but whatever kind of animals you have, people deal with animal manure in different ways. Some people clean the barn every day. Some people let it pile up and make a pack barn. Whatever you're doing, if you just, on a regular basis, sprinkle some biochar around on it, and then if you really want the most benefit, you will use a lactobacillus inoculant as part of that process, because one of the things that happens with manure is it loses its nitrogen really quickly if you don't treat it correctly. And you can smell the ammonia. That's the nitrogen volatilizing and going away. You lost it forever. So biochar will absorb urea and convert it to nitrate, but you're fighting again the alkalinity. So ammonia volatilizes in alkaline environment, and it's less likely to volatilize in a more acidic environment. So for instance, in commercial poultry houses, they use citric acid or bisulfate, sodium bisulfate, as acidifiers to knock the ammonia down. And so if you do both an acidifier and the biochar in your manure management, you'll see a really great benefits. And my favorite acidifier is a lactobacillus, because it will propagate. If you just throw in a chemical, it has a certain amount of action, and then the reactions are done, and then it's neutralized. But if you put in a lactobacillus, so that that's what makes your yogurt, your kombucha, your naturally fermented pickles. If you spray that once a week along with your biochar, and maybe you don't even have to keep spraying it, but at least get enough in there so it can self-propagate, then the acidity keeps developing, and you've created a more sustainable method of managing the manure.
Excellent. Let's see here, and real quickly, let's put a couple of these together real quick. Serena asks, how often should biochar be added to raised beds or planting holes when transplanting? And Shawnee also asks, is it just add to your garden once and never again?
Well, that's a good question. I keep adding biochar. My soil is black, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
I think you start seeing benefits right away, no matter how much you add. It's really good to add it at the very beginning. So, for instance, if you're growing transplants, put it right in the very beginning with your seed. if you got, and then when you're putting the transplants out in the garden, put a little bit more in there. If you're cycling it through your compost, you're just going to automatically add it with your compost. And that's really probably the easiest way to do it. But if I'm planting a perennial like a fruit tree, I want to make sure I put plenty of biochar in that planting hole along with the compost. So that's your opportunity to actually put a good amount of biochar in place, and but just make sure you've got plenty of other nutrients in there as well. But yeah, I think the best way to do it is a little bit at a time.
And, you know, in the book, just as a follow-up to that, some fascinating things that I loved reading about are using it as a big, thick mulch. You said you mulch your raspberries with biochar as a mulch. And then there's some stories in there about in Japan and England, saving and preserving trees by kind of inserting it into the soil in specific places, these old trees that got revived. So there's just, I mean, this book is a cascade of fascinating things. I mean, you're showing a little bit by going into depth with a few things here, but there were so many rabbit holes to go down in this book. Lovely, delightful rabbit holes. So it's so crazy and amazing, all the different, you know, you even have a toothpaste recipe for biochar, which I'm going to try to make actually, because I have the same deep pocket thing that you do.
Yeah,
yeah, same here.
I haven't been to the dentist in like 5 years, so.
Right? Oh my God, yes, I'm going to start doing that. So these are such, it's so amazing how varied. I mean, this, you know, if you ever said, there's a lot of claims made of like, oh, X will save the world or Y will save the world. A lot of it's very spurious and specious and, you know, maybe special interest oriented. But I think we could truly say biochar will save the world. Right? I mean, it has so many applications.
At least save your teeth.
Right.
Well, it's the universal antidote, you know, for poisoning.
Yeah.
There's a lot of uses in health.
Well, when you talk about feeding cows too, and you know, humans and cows, it's like, oh, if we're gonna mix it with the poop, why don't we just start at the other end and get it in that way? So there's just, it's a whole, you know, organismic, and it's like microcosm, macrocosm. What's good for the organism then is good for the earth, and it works on all the scales. It's just astonishing.
All right, another biochar enthusiast is born.
Oh man, I'm ready to go. Sign me up. You tell me what the big workshop is. I'm going.
Nice.
Right on. And real quick here too, to move on to some of those things that Mark was talking about too, though, here, just kind of dip into part of the book here where you talk about testing your biochar. You want to talk about different aspects and different possible tests that you would use for ensuring your biochar?
Well, really, the pH is the most important for using your biochar. If you can get a lab test, and we've done that a lot just to make sure that what we're doing, what we're producing is good. And I think the most interesting thing to know is how much ash is in it versus how much carbon. So some things that you would make biochar out of, like, the would have more ash, so for instance, crop waste like corn stalks and sunflower stalks and anything like that just naturally has more ash in the biomass. So you'll end up with more ash in the biochar. And ash is nutrients, it's calcium, magnesium, iron, stuff like that. So it's stuff that soils need and plants need. But you can run into that pH issue. So I think that's really the most important thing you need to test as far as the actual properties of your biochar if you're making it in a simple fire. And then other than that, I think the bioassays are the most useful for most people, because those, you send it to a lab, you'll learn exactly how much minerals are in it, and you'll learn exactly how much charcoal versus carbon versus ash. You'll learn also something about the surface area of it. But do you really need to know all that? If you know the pH, that actually tells you a lot. That tells you
and you kind of touched on a little bit of the germination test with the other things. I thought one other one too is as a home worm farmer myself, you talk about a worm avoidance test.
Yeah. That one's kind of fun.
Yeah, worms will tell you a bit about this, about what you're using too, right? Because if they don't like it, they just get the heck out of there, right?
They do. They vote with their feet.
Yeah.
They don't have feet.
They don't have
I
feet.
did.
No.
I did make a marginal note of that. I thought, no, there's so many good. I got to say one other really fun little humorous thing. There's a lot of little Easter eggs in this book that you have to sort of scan through. But one of the pictures has all your equipment for the burns, and it's like, oh, there's a propane torch, there's a moisture meter, there's a special McLeod rake kind of thing, all these specialized things. And then there's a little gnome with like the red hair sticking out of it. And that's part of your kit. And that's the reminder to keep the fire on top. And I'm like, yes, that is so fun.
There
Are
he
we
is.
going to see the gnome?
There you go.
Gnome.
Cool.
The fire gnome.
It's the flame cap.
The flame cap.
I mean, there's a lot of good humor in this book, and that's exactly what. Yeah, so that's the challenge to the readers. If you get this book, go ahead and buy it, and then look, try to find the flame gnome. Where's the flame cap? I love that little guy.
Yeah, this guy got me a job. I was at a conference and I had it at my table, and a woman came up who just fell in love with it, and she ended up hiring me to do some work.
Wow, the power of humor, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there was one other thing I found really, really fascinating in the book as well too, and something I didn't really know about and everything. And you talk about it in chapter 6, transforming smoke into useful chemicals. But you go into wood vinegar. You want to talk about wood vinegar a bit, because that was just something that I found so fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, so again, this comes from Asian agriculture. There's so much to learn. I don't know if any of you guys have looked into Korean natural farming or jadam, or that's where the bokashi comes from, this Japanese fermented grain that we use in soil. There's lots of really interesting information. Okay, what was the question again?
Wood vinegar.
Yeah.
Yes, it comes from Asian agriculture. I started reading about it, and you can buy it. They usually make it from bamboo, and it's just liquid smoke. It's actually the exact same thing as if you go and buy liquid smoke for cooking.
Okay.
It's condensed smoke. So all the stuff that comes out of your fire that burns in a flame, if you can condense that, and it makes a liquid that has different fractions. So the useful fraction that we use in gardening is the aqueous, or the water soluble fraction. There'll always be like some oil and tar, so you need to skim those off or strain those out. And then the water soluble fraction is like pretty high in acetic acid, which is vinegar. So that's why it's called wood vinegar, but it's also got about 200 other chemicals in it. And a lot of those are plant growth stimulants. And if you think about it, you'll realize why this works. In a fire-adapted ecosystem, when a fire goes through, you'll notice a lot of times that there's a major growth stimulating effect afterwards. Like plants just pop up out of the ground. And part of that is from these chemicals, and the chemicals send a message to plants, the smoke chemical, the smoke that condenses on things even in a fire, that, hey, there's been a fire, everybody else is dead, but you're still alive. Now's the time to grow, baby. Put it on, because you don't have competition. So these are growth stimulating effects. And the way that people in Japan and Korea learned how to use this wood vinegar was by diluting it different amounts. You get different effects. So for instance, they'll use it as a foliar spray at a really high dilution, like maybe 500-600 parts of water to 1 part of this wood vinegar.
Yeah.
It'll give that growth stimulating effect. And then at a higher concentration of wood vinegar, maybe 200 to 1, they'll use it as a pesticide.
Yeah. It's kind of an interesting juxtaposition that an enhancer of growth, but then also being a pesticide as well.
And you can certainly overdo it and kill plants so you got to be careful with it. I found it mostly, I have not found it to be super effective on a lot of bugs, but it's actually a pretty good fungicide. So I've used it for powdery mildew, and it seems to work really well for that. And gray mold, which I've gotten on my strawberries, botrytis, very effective for that.
Okay.
So there's I mean, I have a lot more experimentation to do with it, but I cover some of the papers, and I think that's one of the things about the Biochar Handbook that you all mentioned, was that it can go deep into some of these topics, and so it's super well referenced, because since I've been able to be a full-time biochar professional for so long now, especially in the early days, when there weren't very many scientific papers, I was reading every one that came out.
Yeah.
And so, I really kind of gave myself a graduate education in biochar just by reading the papers. And so, I'm able to do these deep dives and try to explain them in terms that anybody can understand, because I'm not a biologist, so I had to interpret it for myself, or a chemist. And but all the references are in the book. So if you want to explore more on your own, the references are there. You can look them up.
Yeah, definitely. And one other thing on that real quick though, too, is you were talking about, if you can definitely kill plants with it, but one of them too in the list here of things you can do with wood vinegar is a weed killer as well, right? So
yeah.
Okay.
Just on the point of the references, I always read with a pen, and I'm always marking things up. And I have so many lines, arrows, and circles where you mention so-and-so is an expert in this part of the world, and his website offers great blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, I gotta go look at that. Gotta go look at that. Gotta go look at that. So you reference a lot of things in that book.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. And again, too, really, here we are. It's already winding down here towards the end of our interview right now. And I'm really, I've only really kind of worked halfway through the book here to get through my questions and my stuff. I tell you, we could do a whole nother interview and get through a bunch more. That's how really informative and what you can really get out of this book. And like Mark says, just really, really a must have for your gardening bookshelf, something to really dig into is this Biochar Handbook. You got any last questions you want to throw out there, Mark, before we get moving on today?
Well, your last chapter was really interesting, the Garden of Eden, and kind of the message you leave with folks. And you reference this a little bit in the water filtration thing. And also in your introduction, you say, all right, look, when I was a journalist, I was looking at peak oil. I was looking at the idea of, oh yeah, we might have the tar sands now and the shale oil, but we're just getting less energy out of it in terms of the energy we put in. And, we might have hit peak easy oil extraction, but we're still in oil extraction. But there's going to come a day when we are powered down, essentially, when modern society is powered down. And this biochar whole process represents a kind of a return to the past in so many ways, but a place where we're more independent, we're more in tune with natural cycles. So, and I think it really hit home when in the filtration chapter, when you said, a lot of times we think of the developing world as trying to catch up with the developed world, but we may be going in the other direction. When the developed world loses its cheap, easy fuel supply, we're going to become more like the developing world is now. So just say a little bit on that.
Oh gosh, that's a huge topic.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of my motivating, force for most of my life was growing up in the 70s and getting ready to get my driver's license and realizing that there were gas lines. Oh, gee.
I remember those.
Yeah. And so I've always been paying attention to energy because our civilization is completely dependent on it. And I went to school to study mechanical engineering because I wanted to work in renewable energy. And I lived off grid for a long time, and I'd have solar on my house and so forth. But, just being an engineer, I know that power density is what really makes our civilization go.
Yeah.
So not that we wouldn't have any energy, but if, once we lose, and we're already starting to really lose growth in diesel fuel, for instance, the heavy oil. So it's a big complicated topic, but yeah, I mean, I think our industrial civilization has a lifespan. Now, what's been really cool about the past few hundred years is cultures around the world have discovered each other and learned from each other, is we've developed this huge compendium of knowledge. We've rescued this information about biochar that was not really collated before. And so there are amazing techniques for sustainability that can improve our lives beyond how people lived, a couple hundred years ago before fossil fuels. And so that's what I feel like I'm doing, is trying to prepare the ground for a different kind of civilization that's not based on consumption and just blowing through energy, but it's more sustainable, circular. We're going there whether we like it or not. So let's power down in a in a good way. So I actually have a Substack called the Biochar Prepper. If you want, where I'm continuing to explore ideas like this. So if anybody wants to seek that out, and send me ideas for what you want me to write about and explore. That would be fun.
Oh,
Great. Thank you. Yeah, no, really, really amazing, important message. And I'm glad that you sort of bookended all the technical and recipes kind of stuff with these kind of big, important themes. Like, pay attention here.
Yeah, because why are we doing this? I mean, partly because I do it because it makes my gardening so much easier. But, I could probably grow great plants if I just went out and bought a bunch of Miracle Grow and, I could grow really good plants. They look good anyway. I don't think they'd have the nutrient density that my plants do. But anyway.
Yeah. So many great points. And again, too, just a really, really wonderful book. I just really commend you on putting this together. Just really awesome, and just awesome conversation. Look at that. There we go. We all got our copy. Go get
all
our copy too.
We all have a book right now, which is really fun.
Yeah.
I have to reference it sometimes because I forget what I wrote. Like, what did I write there?
Right on. And so for everybody who's watching here today, to definitely go out and get yourself a copy of the Biochar Handbook by Kelpie Wilson. We got links in the description. We got a link in the chat for all of you as well. I think I just froze up. What timing for that? How is that, right? Let's see here.
Are you frozen in times, Enoch? Yeah, I'll look at Enoch.
I think I'm frozen. Yeah. Oh boy.
Now, I gotta say, while we got a second, is I've been watching the chat stream here, and I gotta say, Jay Dixon is knocking it out of the park. Like, barely a thing comes out of Kelpie's mouth, and Jay Dixon has the citation already. It's like, how in the world you are even doing that? I can't imagine, but like, you're putting so much info up there. So thank you, Jay, for your tireless work to give people all the links. I mean, it's like barely the word wood vinegar came out, then there was already like a definition of wood vinegar, and already she's got your Substack up there. It's like,
my.
Nice.
Yeah, we got good people on this thing.
Yeah, join me over at the Substack. Make comments over there, and we can chat about biochar over there.
Oh yeah, no, that sounds so fun. Oh, is Enoch back? No, now you're just a black screen. Well done, Enoch.
I know.
He's
me at least.
Enoch is a disembodied voice now. He's turned into biochar. Look, he's totally dark and black, and there we go.
I think we're back in now. Oh, these cameras. When it gets late in the show, I think they just get warmed up or whatever and whatnot. But yeah, no, really, thank you so much, Kelpie, for being here. It was just a really wonderful interview.
Big thanks.
Yeah, thank you guys. It was fun.
Huge respect for what you're doing and really leading the way. You're kind of taking us all by the hand and saying, hey, let's do this all together, and here's how. So thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Yeah, definitely. And again, to everybody, go get your copy, the Biochar Handbook. Absolutely. All right. And Kelpie, thanks again. And now I got to get my buttons right here. But we'll all see you guys in just one moment. We'll be right back. Hey gardeners, thanks for tuning in to our show today. We'll be right back at it here in just a moment. I just wanted to take a second here to highlight our regular videos and features here on the Urban Gardener channel. Our weekly garden journals, and our incredible featured visits. Okay, here we are back at it again. Mark, what a really awesome book for us this month, right?
That I just feel like I had just a weightlifting session at the gym for my brain, my gardening brain. You know, just like that was so much good stuff, and it feels so good. It was like, wow, I'm just so grateful. Like, look, we happen to be that was a great point at the end. It's like we happen to be at this time period in history when we have a lot of this stuff available to us, and we can benefit from it. So let's just dig in and get going and do this thing.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, everybody definitely, like Mark also said too earlier, this is a must-have for your gardening bookshelf. Get yourself a copy. I just really so much more. Like I said, we only got through like half of what I was looking to talk about today, and that just seems to be the thing when it comes to such great books like this, that it's, there's just so much in here that you're definitely going to want to go and get this books and read through it and learn just a bit more about that. And especially if you have any questions that we weren't able to get to or anything like that, get in and read this book, check it out. I know, again, also, as you mentioned too, I'm gonna have to go back and re-reference some things so I can get some things get down in with a lot of some of this information a bit more, because it's so full of just some really great information. She mentioned that she wasn't really a scientist or the sort of thing, but it's a very educational book, and it sure sounds like she is, for sure.
A lot of these books, the way I look at them is that they're like orbital books. You're in the orbit for a while, then you go out thinking about something else, but then you realize a thought will occur. It's like, oh, I got to go back to that book and look this up. So they're there. They become this reference touchstone point for you as you circulate around your garden journey. But this one is definitely has a high gravity. I think we're going to be orbiting close to it for a while.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right, here now again, too, one of the great reasons to hang on and to the end of the show here for our monthly book clubs, as we get to talk about what our next book is for the monthly gardening book club. And for our November selection of the monthly gardening book club, we will be inviting onto the show third Sunday of November. Again, I have to figure out exactly the date here, but we're going to have with us Kristen Graves. Kristen Graves will be joining with us to talk about the Garlic Companion, because that's what time of year it is. It's that garlic growing season. We're all thinking about getting our garlic planted, right?
There's an old saying in the folklore, I don't know if Europe or wherever, it's that I always tell my kids at school because it's just so puzzling and interesting. Garlic is better than 10 mothers. So
that's a good one.
Mother, don't tell it to our actual mothers, but garlic is better than 10 mothers because it's a plant that just really takes care of us. So we, culinarily and medicinally and all this stuff. So we need to take care of it, and it's time to plant the garlic.
Yeah, it's time to plant the garlic. And again, one of my favorite crops when I was, one that, again, that has that kind of learning curve is when I talk about garlic, is because when I was first starting to get gardening, you get into the spring and you get your seeds out, you start planting and doing all of that sort of stuff. I remember when I first started planting my garlic, and I knew enough to grow it from the cloves.
Yeah.
I'd plant it right into the little 6-packs with my seeds and all that sort of stuff, or I'd put it right out into the garden in the springtime. But it's this time of year because it's got such a long growing period, and it kind of needs that winter, I think, vernalization and things, you know, and that sort of thing that it requires in order to really grow those really nice fat garlic bulbs that you want. So, you know, that was kind of the big learning curve for me, was figuring out, wait a minute, I got to be growing this in the fall time.
Yes. Yeah, it's one of those great things we can plant right now. You know, it's like this is the moment for planting, right, for garlic.
Yeah, exactly. Which makes a perfect book for this time of season. So again, look forward to having Kristen Graves for our third Sunday this next month in November. Let me get the date for that for sure. That's the 16th.
Yeah, 16th.
Yeah.
I think if I'm not mistaken too, I think I heard Kristen introduced up at the Flower and Garden Show last year in Seattle. And I think she's something like a 5th generation farmer.
Yeah.
Canada.
In fact, I think that's what her Instagram is called, 5th Generation Farms or something like that as well too. So yeah, so she's been doing this a long time. And again, I've already been flipping through this book and looking at it. It looks really great. Lots of really cool recipes and things like that included with the book as well. So again, really great book. Get yourself a copy of the Garlic Companion and come join Mr. MBC and me this next month, third Sunday of the month, November 16th, and we'll talk all about growing garlic and the Garlic Companion. So right on, Mark, here we go, another great book in the book.
That was the real tour de force with Kelpie Wilson today. I can't believe it. And just a great conversation, a great book.
Yeah, just a great, awesome. Again, we could have talked about so much more. So it's on these ones here. I wish we had like a 2-hour interview when it comes down to it, because there was so much that we could have really dug into. But really a good reason for you to go and get that book and check out all of those other things.
Well, you know, I think we got 3 things if we really want to go deep. Is like, okay, get the book and really study that, read that, look at all the references. Go to the Substack to stay kind of in conversation about what Kelpie's thinking about. That's cool. And then knowing about this course that's there too, that we can go check out, where she really gives it, you know, really deep, lots of lecture and lots of additional materials. I think those would be great ways to really, you know, get more profound approach to the subject if it bites you.
Yeah, right on. Excellent. Again, too, like I said, just another great show finishing up here. So again, thank you, Mark, for being here as well too. It's always great to get together with you each and every month and have these just awesome conversations, whether it's in the garden or digging into these just really awesome books.
You know, I just got to say, I just appreciate this learning journey we're on together, Enoch, and it's so helpful for my own gardening practice. It's helpful for my teaching. It's just this. It's like a fountain of ideas that we keep exploring, that we're just drinking from the fountain, you know, each month, getting new ideas, tasting other people's research, what they're passionate about, how they're approaching the subject. I just find it so stimulating and so amazing. Each month, I just can't wait for the next garden book group.
Right on. Me either. It's just again, we've been having so much fun with this. I can't wait for our next conversation. Can't wait to get together and hang out with you and everybody else in the audience for all of these, like I said, really great books. So right on.
Great questions today. Thank you to everyone who submitted a question. Again, hats off to Jay Dixon for just incredible work, up to the minute, keeping us informed with what's going on there with the comments. That was amazing.
Yeah, she does such an awesome job with that. Thank you. Right on. We'll take one more really quick break, and I'll be right back and let you all know what's coming up here on Let's Get Growing.
See you next month, everybody. Thanks a lot.
So, all right, everybody, again, another great book club here on the Let's Get Growing show. Definitely come and join with us next November 16th, third Sunday of the month, for our Garlic Companion interview with Kristen Graves for next month's book club. And also, remember, we're here every Saturday and Sunday, so come and join with us next Saturday. Next Saturday on the show, we're going to have with us Kyle Haggerty from the Urban Farmstead. We're going to try one more time to get Kyle on with us. The last time that we tried to get him on, he got called out. He's a firefighter as well, too. So he got called out on us. So we're going to get him back on the show here this next Saturday and talk all about the Urban Farmstead. And also we're going to get to talk with our good friend and someone we see in our chat each and every weekend with us here. Shawnee Groves will be with us for our Are You Following Me segment for our next Saturday show. And, we'll talk with her all about reaching 1,000 subscribers on her channel and all of that. So congratulations to her. We'll see her next Saturday. And for the Sunday edition next week, we're going to have back with us our good friend, John Kohler will be joining us with Wendy Fan as well, too. It's really going to be a fun conversation with these two. We've had them both on our Sunday shows, but now we'll bring them together for a fun roundtable conversation next Sunday edition. We'll talk all about what they've been up to and different things that they've been doing here recently and how their gardens have been growing this season in our garden roundtable, asking what's been growing on. So again, everybody, thank you so much for being here today. A really great show. So much to talk about with our book club here today, and thank you again too for all of the really awesome questions that you all contributed with today as well too. And before we head out today, definitely click that like button, hit the thumbs up, and the subscribe button as well. Hit that hit the boy, oh boy, I'm totally all messed up here with all my buttons and everything. But definitely subscribe and share with all of your friends. Let them know that we're here every Saturday and Sunday, 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. For all of you over there in the UK. And follow all of the links down below in the description. Get yourself a copy of the Biochar Handbook. Go check out Kelpie Wilson over on her webpage, as well as all of our other social media for us here at the Urban Gardener. And also too, real quick here, before we head out, remember we are here also at the end of the month for our 5th annual Halloween hangout. If you want to participate in our costume contest or our Halloween garden decor contest as well, to submit some pictures to our email there at theurbangardener@mail.com. Get those in by October 29th to be included into our fun live stream for our Halloween hangout, where we'll be checking out the 1960 classic Little Shop of Horrors. So definitely come and join with us then. It's great to see all of you. It was a really, really fun weekend. I look forward to this so much every single weekend, to come and hang out with all of you guys and all these really awesome guests that we get to have. And definitely look forward to seeing you all next weekend as well. So we'll see you all then.
Power out.